Does your kitchen chair, your end table or coffee table, or maybe even a footstool, does it have the wiggles and do this? And you've taken it apart, you stuffed all the holes where the legs go and with glue, and you put it back together. Maybe you even put a nail or a screw up through the leg into the seat of the chair. And you feel it, and boy, it's really tight. You let it sit overnight. The next day you sit down in it, and 15 minutes later, it's doing this again. I bet you've been there and done that. Most people have. Well, I want to tell you this morning what's wrong, why it wiggles, and how to fix it, so that your chair can be saved for posterity and get rid of the wiggles forever. So come along with me, let's check out the wiggles. Oh, good afternoon. Got another little honeydew project here. This little footstool was made by my wife's dad back around 1935. It's made out of English walnut. He would have turned everything. He made the stretchers here on the bottom, kind of fancy. So anyway, what's wrong with this? Well, there's not a whole lot wrong with it. That's what's wrong with it. It's really gotten loose between the legs and the stretchers here. The upper stretchers just get really loose and wiggle both ways. So I'm going to tear it apart and see what I can do with it. I'll be tearing it apart, cleaning it up, re-gluing it, and then I'm going to go back over it with Restore Finish, which ought to make it shine and look really good. It doesn't need to be refinished, it needs to be freshened up. So I'm going to get started here, get a screwdriver, and start taking this thing apart. First thing I want to do is, of course, remove the cushion. I want to protect it, not get it dirty. So I've got a cloth here. Now I'll be marking all the corners and the pieces here with tape so that I can put it back together exactly as it comes apart. And that's very, very important. Never know how I don't know what's holding it, whether mortise and tenon or dowels or what, but they may not fit the same if we don't get them back in the same holes. So I'm going to go get some tape and get her marked up, and then we're going to start taking it apart. I've got it all marked up now, so let's start taking it apart. These are all machine screws, so they don't have to go back in the same hole. Well, I got it all apart, except for this one little piece. There's a nail right through it, and I'm not going to take it apart. It seems to be tight. The rest of it came apart with a lot of difficulty. Now, you're not going to be able to see it in the video, but it was glued with hide glue, and he had wrapped it with cloth to fill up the area. So I assumed that his mortises were, or his tenons were too small, or mortises too big. It was loose, so he wrapped them in cloth and then glued them in. You can see the cloth there, and it really didn't do much. What it did was it just all wrinkled up down at the bottom. That wasn't the right way to do that. You see cloth on this one too. There's cloth right there. And that just wasn't the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to actually take a small piece of veneer and glue it on there and then put it in. So that it's like one solid piece of wood. So the next thing I got to do is take a razor blade and I got to scrape all these joints get them clean of all the old glue. If I don't, the new glue is not going to stick. And I'll have to scrape inside here, which will be done with great difficulty. So, well, I'm going to get to scraping. That'll be done with chisels and razor blades and sandpaper and everything I can think of. I want to do all I can do to get that old glue off, but I don't want to reduce the size of the tenons or increase the size of the mortises. So, gotta get started. Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday afternoon. And as you can see, I've dry fitted this together. There's going to be a way to put this back together and a way not to. If you don't do it right, you won't be able to get it together. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But as promised at the beginning of this video, talk to you about why your old kitchen chair, after gluing it all, taking it apart, then gluing it all up together, is still loose. And I want to explain to you about the principle behind tongue and groove. Now what we're talking about here are tongue and groove, mortise and tenon, tongue and groove, all the same thing. Dowel, same principle with all these. All right, this is a mortise. No, it is not a mortise. And this oblong hole here is a tenon. Now, a mortise and tenon, when you put them together, the mortise is the hole, the tenon is the tongue. Well, they go together. So you gotta get the right one. There we go. When you slide them together, there should be no lateral movement. See that movement? That should be tight enough that you almost have to force it in there without any lateral movement. Now you say, well, what about glue? All the glue does is keep it from coming back apart like this. The glue has nothing to do with the tightness and the lateral movement. So when you took your old kitchen chair apart and you filled the hole from the legs with glue, put glue all around the tenon and stuck it back together, you still had lateral movement. Your hole had wobbled out and you still had lateral movement. That glue dries and right away the first thing you know, wow, that's tight. I did a good job. Well, you set on it for 3 or 4 days and the next thing you know, it's loose again. Glue doesn't fill the void. It only keeps parts from coming apart again. Okay, like that. It'll stop that, but it will not stop this lateral movement, either up and down or sideways. That's not what glue is all about. You can't fill the void. So that's the principle behind mortise and tenon, tongue and groove, dowels. It's all the same thing. The principle is always the same. The hole has to match what's going into it. And if they're tight when you put it together, it'll stay tight. If they're not, you can't glue it to make it tight. It just doesn't work that way. All the glue does is keep the joint from coming apart. That's all it's good for. Okay? So, now obviously, my mortise and tenons here are loose. They're not tight, so they're not ready to glue up. So what I'm going to have to do is either make the hole smaller or make the tenon bigger. And I've chose to make the tenon bigger. And I'll do that not by wrapping cloth around there like the original maker did. I'll do that by taking some veneer, it's real thin, and I'll glue the veneer onto the tenon to thicken the tenon. And then I'll sand it down to where it just slides in. So I'm going to fit each one of these tenons and make sure that they're tight where there's no lateral movement in the mortise, okay? That's where we're at, that's what we're going to work on. And as I do it, I'll show you as I go along what I'm doing, okay? This tenon fits pretty tight. But there is a little lateral movement this way and also up and down. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue a little piece on the side here, and then I'm going to glue a little piece on the top. So on the side and then on the top. Then I'll probably have to sand that after it gets dry, have to sand it down to where it'll fit tight into the hole. Alright, I cut off of my veneer here. I cut 2 little thin pieces and I glued one on the side of the tenon and another one here on top of the tenon. And I've got pressure on them now, so they'll dry up and be solid. Now when I was doing that, it makes a difference on which face you put the glue. If I put the glue on the inside face, it forces the pieces to go out. If I put it on the outside face, it forces the pieces to go in. So I put it on the outside because that's the way it should fit. Alright, I'm going to continue to do more work on these. And it's basically the same thing, every one of them. Got to do all of them. There's 8 of them. There's 2 on each leg. Okay, I have these all glued up, each end on all the tenons. I decided to make the tenon bigger. It's a lot easier than trying to make the mortise smaller. It's hard to get down in there and work on the inside of that hole. So, well, good morning. I left the patch on the tenons set up overnight. And what I'm going to do this morning is obviously take the clamps off, enjoy my coffee, and trim these up. Now I don't expect them to fit. I expect them to be so tight they won't go in there. And I'm expecting to have to sand probably half of it away. You can see that they're larger than what they can possibly be. So I'll take a knife and we'll just trim those edges off. See, it won't even begin to go in. Way too tight. But so what I got to do is start just a little bit too tight. You want these so tight that you put it up there and you got to lightly tap it to go in. That's when you know you got a good fit. So I'll take my sandpaper and a block. Just about there. I'll take just a tad off the end here. Almost. Not quite, almost. Just a little tight yet. Okay, you get the idea. So I'm going to turn the camera off here and keep working. You don't need to watch me sand. So this is what it's supposed to fit like. This is all I can do to force it in there. And now there's no lateral movement at all. It almost sucks it in there, like there's a suction. That's what you want, okay? Well, put little blocks on the ends here, clamp it up. Blocks protect the good wood from the clamps. And draw it in real tight. And you see I got glue squeeze out? That's what you want. You want glue squeeze out. That means you got enough glue in there to do the job. So now I'll wipe the squeeze out off, and set this aside, let it dry overnight, and this end will be good to go. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the other end, and then I'll join the 2 pieces together. And this video is not about me repairing this little footstool. This video is teaching you why when you glue legs on your kitchen chairs back together. In 2 or 3 days they're loose again. You know, it's what you got to do to make a good mortise and tenon, or a good dowel, or a good tongue and groove fit tight and not vibrate. You know, the glue only keeps them from separating. The glue does not make a tight fit, and that's something that I've been trying to show you here. Well, it's back together. I got it clamped up here, clamped down here, of course clamped here in the center. So I'm gonna let it dry overnight now, and then I think it'll be ready to go. A little cleanup then after it gets done, and I think it'll be ready to go. Well, good morning. It's all done. I sprayed it with shellac. I decided I'd go with the shellac finish like it had originally. And I hope that this was a good lesson on mortise and tenon, or dowel joinery. That's really what this is all about. It wasn't about showing you how to repair a footstool. It was all about showing how to get good mortise and tenons where they're tight, where there's no give in them, and I hope we accomplish that. But looking at it, I think it looks pretty good. Coming up next is the final reveal.